Here on Salam Media, and the country, South Africa's first digital census, is due to begin this week and will conclude at the end of February. The nationwide population count will be conducted through telephone, digital computer assisted counting, and physical door to door visits. And that's where the worry is focused on. To talk to us about it is Trevor Oosterwyk, Director Corporate Communications at Stats South Africa. A very good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Very good morning to you and your listeners, and thank you very much for allowing me to come onto your program.
Absolute pleasure. I should imagine it's in all of our interests to get counted. For those people who don't understand why, just give us some background as to why this happens, how regularly it happens, in terms of after how many years do we have a census, and what happens to all of this information that is garnered, and then obviously verified, and then Stats South Africa gets a picture. What sort of a picture are you looking at, and what then happens after all of that?
Thank you very much. Let me just correct a little bit of an introductory error that you had there. This is going to be our fourth census, and it is the first digital one that we are doing. When I say the fourth one, I mean the fourth one in democratic South Africa. South Africa in itself started with censuses kind of way back in 1795, and you can also trace back census taking right back to biblical times if you wish. You could see references to census. Census is a phenomenon that nation states use to get a picture of its people. In our case, we do a little bit more. We do what we call a day during census. We want a snapshot of a certain point in time. And our point is in the 2nd of February, which is tomorrow, who were all inside the borders of South Africa, irrespective of nationality, race, creed, sex, religion, whatever else. And so we want to always going to ask you in this month, where were you on the sleeping on the night of the 2nd of February? Because we want to paint not the stats so much, but for the nation and for the world a picture of how many people were in the borders of South Africa, how many of them were South Africans, how many of them were non-South Africans, what were their sex, age gaps, how old were they, how many in age category, what are the general average income, what general average educational standards, what are the quality of the housing or lack thereof, water, electricity, and other essential services. And so that we then have a tapestry of information that we can then share with the nation. This information, because the taxpayer pays for it, is available to every South African to use. I can give you an example. In Pinetown a day or what ago, I got an urgent call from a lady who was putting up a pharmacy. She's already rented the location, already put in shelves and things. And then the health department told her, no, you can't do this because you don't have the requisite size of population. And she needed to know what was that size. So for that business planning, Statistics South Africa and the data generated, information generated through these processes became invaluable. The Treasury, on the other hand, uses it. We will give them a provincial breakdown of the population size of the sex, and they use it to slice the cake so that each province gets its equitable share by using the data. The IEC uses it to demarcate voting districts per size of population because they cut up in the same way that we cut up the country, making pockets for this purpose. They use the census data.
Okay, so Trevor, yes. Obviously censuses are carried out all around the world for the very purposes that you've outlined here. And just to go back to my introductory question, I indicated that it is, and correct me here if I'm wrong, it is the country's first digital census, not the first census per se, But the
Yes,
first
that's correct.
digital census, we'll unpack that in a
Absolutely
minute
correct.
or two. Let's look at the issue of illegal immigrants. If they don't understand why the census is carried out, they certainly are not going to participate in the census. That's the one issue. And then the other issue as well is around your constitutional rights and the Poppy Act. There will be people who believe that they don't want to share this information, and it is their constitutional right that they they don't have to. And when, how does the Poppy Act then play a part in as far as the importance of carrying out a census in the country?
Yes. Let's deal with the nationals first. Uh, it's for that very reason that we do not ask people to tell us whether they what their legal status is. They correctly indicate that they would not want to have us know that they're there. So if we don't ask them about their legal status, we just want to know you are here and we count you in. So irrespective of that, we do not ask that question because it just complicates matters, as you may understand. And I think we put
Mm,
it on the POPIA Act, we are POPIA compliant. We went to the information regulator. People should read the POPIA Act very in greater detail that there are institutions who then comply with the regulations given by the information regulator that has the right to collect personal data for this in this instance for the purposes of data collection and for instead SA is therefore they're not allowed to use that, for example, to give it to the taxman or any other institution or give your personal information to anywhere. And that personal data, when the statistics are released, the data is anonymized, and so one wouldn't know whose data is what. It's just completely anonymized, and we report numbers at the high level. So that's the Fire Act. Secondly, in terms of you say about your constitutional right, I did not understand. Are you saying that they have a constitutional right not to participate?
I'm asking, does that cover the census as well, or does that fall outside of it? In terms of the census, it's important for the country to get all of this information, as you've said, to plan forward regarding, as you've suggested.
And
Uh,
yes, and therefore you have a constitutional or democratic responsibility as a citizen. As much as you have rights, all of us, each one of us have responsibilities also. We have to
mm,
send our children to school between the ages of 5 and 16. It's a legal requirement. You cannot do it.
mm,
We must pay our taxes. It's a
right.
legal requirement. And in the same way, the Statistics Act says that if when the statistician general sends his representatives to you to collect data for the purposes of information that the country needs for planning, it's incumbent on you to participate.
Okay, so that has been cleared up. Let's look at the issue around the digital census. How, for those people who'd like to go that route, how is it going to be? And I also understand that approximately 165,000 field workers will be deployed across the country to count everyone within the borders of South Africa. With the high crime levels in the country, I mean, we know that there are even blue light brigades pretending to be genuine cops, and they're holding people up on all the major highways. How can we ensure our safety uh, as far as field workers? Knocking on our doors, they could be bogus field workers, and they're there just to possibly hold us up and violate our rights and our homes.
It's a tragic situation, wouldn't you say? And it's sad that our country has come to that. And I just pray that at some point in our lives, or maybe in the next generation, we can get a grip of those things and not allow our society to deteriorate to that extent. But also, we as a state agency, we have to be realistic and say, how do we help the citizens so that we obviate this particular problem? So we've adopted a few measures. For example, you don't have to have a field worker coming into your house. You can avail yourself of the digital online completion. That means you download the questionnaire and you complete it yourself, and then you send it back within 5 days. But for that purpose, there's a registration process just to management purposes to obviate any double or triple counting. So you go to getcounted.statsa.gov.za and register there. It's fairly easy. Sometimes the systems messes around a little bit, but it's generally very easy to complete. And then once you've done that, you will then be allowed to download it. You can also get telephone assistance. There's a call-free number, no data to yourself. We cover that cost. And like you and I are now talking and doing an interview, they will then conduct that interview. Notwithstanding or otherwise, then field workers will come knock on your door. These in 2011 they were dressed in yellow. For this census they are dressed in green. Black cap, black bag, green and white ID card. So they gotta have the green on, the cap, the bag, and the ID card. That's the paraphernalia that SA field workers will wear. Even further to that, you can ask a card from the person, and you can do one of two things then. You can either call the toll-free number and verify that the person is indeed a legitimate SA official, or you could go to the website yourself. There's a little placeholder there that says verify your field worker. You type in the number and the picture of the person that should stand in front of your door will come up, and that way you will know whether this one is bogus or not. Lastly, you don't have to, even if they come, you don't have to do the interview in your house. You can stand at your gate. You can go to the shopping mall. You can go to your lawyer's office, your church, anywhere else where you feel comfortable and safe, so that you conduct that, and you don't have to have the person come into your house.
Okay, and then finally, I am assuming that census are carried out every 10 years. Is that correct? And
That's correct.
also, okay, how accurate are the stats that are captured? Will it give you an accurate enough picture of what's happening in our country? Births, deaths, people living in a certain area, how you need to plan for schooling, clinics, hospitals, etc., etc., etc. And what sort of percentage, your margin of error percentage, what does that look like?
You know, the factor of accuracy and good data is a factor of participation. The more people participate, the better the quality of the data. The more people give us the correct information, of course, you have the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. So that's the one factor of the thing. And the other factor is that we have a process just after the census. Once the census these workers are done, they stop counted. We have a group of people who, alongside the census, have planned, and they do what we call a post-enumeration survey. They take a sample of the houses that the census was supposed to have gone to, and they go recount those areas. So then typically there's the second group that might come to your door and ask, was the census taken? Did they get your information? And in that way, we'll know how many houses were missed in the main census. And that also speaks, it's called the undercount. That's what you refer to a margin of error. It's called the undercount. If we missed a high percentage of people, the quality of the numbers are impacted. If we missed a low percentage of people, then the better the quality of the information that comes out. So there are, methodologically speaking and statistically speaking, systems in place to ensure and then to communicate to the nation the quality of that information. So your report will typically also have a methodological system section, and it will tell you that this data is of good quality or it's not so good. We've missed 25% of the houses, missing a quarter of the percentage of the nation means that you only have information about 3/4, and that can't be of a good quality. So those things are built into the system. And as I say, it is critical that the citizens and all people who are here participate to make that quality better.
Thank you indeed. Undoubtedly, after the census has been concluded, we'll have another chat with you to find out just how successful it's been.
Certainly.
and any other additional information that we need. But thank you indeed for your time. And undoubtedly, we're urging everybody in the country to stand up and be counted. That was Trevor Oosterwyk. He is the Director of Corporate Communications at Stats South Africa. 8:36 exactly, right here on Salam Media.
Approximately 785 million